Welcome to Bears Talk Live with Greg Gabriel, where he brings over 30 years of scouting experience to Swift Sports and the best fans in the business. Hit the like button and hype up this video to support the channel, and let's talk Bears football. What's going on, Greg? Man, we are here in the midst of free agency, a couple days into it now, and fans are already losing their mind. We'll talk a bit about that soon, but I think the Bears have added some great players. Greg, how you feeling today?
I'm doing good. I got, my kids are coming in town tomorrow, so I haven't seen them in a year. So I'm real excited about that.
Oh yeah, that's why we're doing the show a day early this week. Greg's going to be spending some time with his kids. It was actually my daughter's birthday yesterday. It's going to be a good weekend. I can't wait. Greg, how you doing, my man?
Doing good. Doing real good.
All right. What do you think? Let me ask you this. Let me phrase this in a way. What do you think is the Bears' best move of free agency so far?
Probably the safety.
Kobe Bryant. I feel the
Yeah.
exact same way. I think
But
he's probably.
I'm going to tell you what. The two defensive linemen.
Mhm.
Don't think those are just afterthoughts. They gave the one guy, pretty good money, and then what's his name, Neville Gallimore. And I'll be honest, I knew nothing about the guy, so I texted Ballard because he was with the Colts last year. He's only with the Colts 1 year, and then I texted another guy who was on my staff who's now with the Rams. He's a assistant director of college scouting. They both said the same thing. High motor, can run like hell, really good guy, hard worker, productive player. They all said the exact same thing. Strong, real strong, so he's a rotation guy. And so then you put on the tape, guy's 300. He played at Indy this year between 315 and 320 all year. You put on the tape, and he ran a 4.79 coming out of college, out of Oklahoma. He might still be able to run a 4.79 because the dude can run.
100%. I will say to the chat real quick, because I did just to mess with people. I sent out a tweet and I said, "Live with Greg Gabriel. Come tell us why the Bears season is over and why we should fire Ryan Poles." So if we get if there's some negativity in the chat, that's why. And just know, guys, I invited it today. Oh, we just got a $5 super chat from my guy Brandon Larson. He sent me this hoodie, guys. I saw this hoodie on Aldo's show a couple weeks ago, and I was like, that hoodie's so fire. And Brandon reached out to me and was like, I'm gonna send you one, Swift. I was like, my goodness, man, this hoodie is incredible, but I love it.
Those orange ones are so heavy, which I like.
It's got like the fur inside.
Yeah, I know. It's a real heavy sweatshirt. The other one, the blue one's a little lighter gauge. That thing, hell, you can wear that out at 15 degrees and you'll be warm.
Oh wow, yeah. It is a killer hoodie. I've already seen some good questions in the chat. Don't worry, guys. I will get to those. But welcome everybody in. We're talking Bears free agency. Me and Greg both have the same opinion here that Kobe Bryant was the best move of free agency. And one thing I got to say about it is I feel like nobody's talking about it. That was our big move. I feel one of the reasons I believe that is because fans were too emotionally attached to Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker. So instead of celebrating how good Kobe Bryant is, they're only worried about the players who left or haven't been re-signed yet.
Okay, I got an answer to all of this, and they can take it because I did talk to somebody who knows what's going on there.
Yeah.
And the whole goal, and Paul said it at the combine, so it's not a secret, but this guy got more specific with me as far as different traits are looking, for different positions. The whole goal this offseason is for the defense to get faster.
Yep.
They want players that can play in DA's defense, particularly along the whole front seven, but they wanted the defensive tackles faster. So they signed 2 defensive tackles who could flat out run, and yet they're still big guys. They're 350
4.740s, yeah.
Yeah, and the other guy, what the hell was his name? Katavius Street. He's a 4.8 guy. He's played for DA before. In fact, his best season was under DA. He had 3.5 sacks. All these guys are rotation guys. And then, you still got Dexter back, and you've got uh, Grady Jarrett back. Uh, who I
IOO,
don't know
Shamar
what's going to
Turner.
happen with Shamar Turner, if they're going to play him inside or outside. I'm sure we'll find that out, and part of that may be determined by, what they do in the draft in another 5 weeks.
Yeah, and I cannot wait for the draft. We'll be discussing draft picks after this show. Our next few shows will be heavily draft focused, but I did want to focus more on free agency. I do have one point I want to make about the draft really quick. I know a lot of fans right now. What have the Bears done on defensive line? Where's I haven't seen it there. Ryan Poles can't evaluate defensive line. All the same stuff they said about him last year on the offensive line. They've now moved the goalposts and they're saying it about the
Oh,
defensive line.
I know, and somebody said that to me, and I go, well, first of all, it's not one man's evaluation. Let's take free agency. You
Mhm.
got the pro scouting department will have reports, one or two different reports. Jeff King, who oversaw the pro scouting department, he'll have a report. The position coach will have a report, and the coordinator will have a report. So, and then they come together, and this is like they all want the guys they go out and sign. It's not Ryan Poles' guy. It's the whole group that wants the guy, and they rank these guys just like you rank draft prospects going into the draft. You have a board of this is the guy I want first. If he's not there, I'm going to this guy. If he's not there, I'm going to this guy. But then you have a line. If none are there, I'm not taking one. Then I got to go to the draft. And what told me the way they did their movements in the last few days told me that they weren't going to spend money on an edge because it was crazy money. They
Mhm.
didn't sign one. They didn't even try to get Hendrickson.
Interesting, yeah.
Okay, now, which brings up the story that I had tweeted out yesterday about Crosby. So I was always against Crosby because of what it was going to cost.
Mm.
So yesterday morning, I tweet out, I said, last night I said Crosby has already had 7 surgeries. I was wrong. He had 8. So, and then I said, I just can't see the Bears going in that direction. And this is after the trade with Baltimore was canceled. Right away, I get a text from an agent, good friend of mine. And he said, don't be so sure about that. He had been talking to a GM like 15 minutes before.
Mm.
And he said that the word around the league is the Bears are going to go heavy after Crosby. Okay, so I basically tweeted that out. Didn't say they're going to get him. Said they're
Yeah,
going to try. Now,
they're gonna call him. Yep.
and the Raiders right now decided that they're holding on to him. I don't think they could play with his head and trade him twice.
Mm.
In a matter of a week. So, um, I think he's a Raider for this year. Who knows what happens after that? But let's get down to the medical. What happened in Baltimore? And I only can say this from my own experience, being in these medical meetings. Where I just said he's had 8 surgeries, he hasn't had 8 knee surgeries. I don't know how many. It's over different body parts. I don't know how many different knee surgeries he's had. But he had a meniscus repair. Now, there's 2 things you can do when you tear a meniscus. They can clean it up, they clip it, they just leave it, and then you don't have little pieces of cartilage floating around your knee, causing your knee to jam. Or they can do what they call meniscus repair. And that's basically like stitching. Say you've got like an oval type tear in the middle of the meniscus. You pull it together and you stitch it together. Okay. And then it becomes whole again. That's what they did to him. It's really a lot better surgery when they just trim the meniscus, you're leaving a hole in the meniscus. The hole's going to eventually get bigger. Arthritic conditions are going to happen. But regardless, whenever you start injuring your meniscus, the cartilage, arthritic, what's the word I want? just arthritis starts to happen, arthritic conditions start to happen. They never get better. They only get worse. And when we listened to uh, uh, Diana Rossini yesterday when she was on a show, uh, she said, from what I understand, the problem wasn't this year. He'll be fine this year. Once he gets back to being 100%, it's what's he going to be like going forward. And that right there, as soon as she said that, I knew exactly what it was. It's an arthritic condition in his knee, and there's no way the doctors can know. They can guess, and and they'll take a best estimate guess that he'll start missing time in year 2 or start missing time in year 3. Could be practice time, could be game time, but you don't know for sure because everybody's different. And so now it becomes a risk. You're paying $30 million and giving up 2 first-round picks, and you might not even have the guy. Well, I get why Baltimore said, no, we're not doing it.
Especially when you can get a similar pass rusher in Trey Hendrickson for less
and
money.
Not pay, and not give up anything. Just pay him.
Oh, yeah. I was always a fan. If we were going to make a splash at edge, I said that was the move all along. But my point with the defensive line and still having a need at the defensive line is if there was a strength in this year's draft class, and I don't think it's a special draft, it's defensive line. There are a lot of edges, and it's a pretty good group, at least up front, at defensive tackle. I don't think
there's only one tackle out of the top tackles that really fits the mold, like the 2 guys they just signed, and what they're looking for. And that's the Penn State kid, Zane Durant.
What about Kristen Miller out of Georgia?
Did he run yet?
I don't think Miller, he
ran. Okay, they want speed, and that's what they didn't have. They didn't have, so they want penetrators with speed, with athleticism to wreak havoc, clean things up for the linebackers. They wanted more speed at the linebacker position. Devin Bush coming out 4.43. Now, I don't know. You go back to his rookie year, he was like in the running for defensive rookie of the year. He was a star. And then he started getting hurt and his play fell off. But this year he had a hell of a year again.
He's been rated top 10 the last 2 years. He was pretty good last year as well. But this year he was pretty special out there.
And good kid, very, very competitive kid. And then, bringing back the linebacker from last year, I thought he played good. The problem
I've
with
always
Tremaine,
had that. Go ahead.
The problem with Tremaine, he's making $15-16 million this year, and he wasn't given. He missed time last year. He played real good before the injury. After the injury, he didn't play worth a shit, and so. The equation you use is if I'm paying them 15, I got to get back 15 in production, and they weren't. So now they got 2 linebackers that cost the same as Tremaine. That's good business.
It's a similar move to what he did when he traded away Roquan, and then he signed T.J. Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds for the same price or less. But to me, I think. It's a strong defensive tackle class, and we know they want to get faster, but we also know they have to get better at stopping the run. So one of the guys we draft, since we have some faster defensive tackles, Dexter's pretty fast. We just signed 2 guys. I do think they could still sign more of a guy who's going to take on double teams, a one tech, someone to replace Andrew Billings.
Well, the one kid is the one tech.
Yeah.
The guy that was the Colts last year, that's what he plays. He plays the one tech.
But he wasn't very good against the run from what I've seen. Now, I did watch 3 of his games the other day, and he got some pressure. He's a power rusher, but he didn't look like a guy who's going to stand in there and eat up double teams like a Caden McDonald would or a Caleb Banks or a Lee Hunter. So I don't think it's impossible that we're going to draft a bigger defensive tackle as well. I know they like the speed, but I still think one of our biggest problems last year was still stopping the run. So I do think we got to improve that run stuffing as well.
I disagree with you on the run part with him, only because the people that had him worked with him. said he's a pretty good run player.
They said he
So
was pretty good at the run. I mean, I only watched 3 of his
yeah,
games, so
no,
I'm not.
and I get
Yeah,
it, and that's fine. And Indianapolis actually was until they lost their quarterback, they were one of the better teams in the league.
mhm.
And this guy
They
was
started out
playing.
what 8-1
Uh,
last year.
they're 8-1 or 8-2, and then he gets hurt, and just died. But this guy was Baylor said, I'd like to keep him. I have no money because I had to take care of the wide receiver. I had to take care of the quarterback. Used up all his
Big money
money.
for Alec Pierce.
Yeah. So and then they signed the guy with Kansas City, Namdi or something like that. But you're getting him for nothing. With $3 million, $2.5 million or something.
I gotta discuss this. This guy says Edmonds is better than Bush is, and Byard is better than Kobe Bryant.
Okay.
Listen to this, guys. Let me real quick just give a comment on the Byard one because Byard is an All Pro. Not gonna say anything
He
down
had a
on
great
Byard,
season. That's right.
but he's gonna be 34 years old. He's at a point where his best football is now behind him,
That's right.
and going forward, he's gonna be not playing at the same level. Whereas Kobe Bryant is 26 years old and was just one of the better defensive backs on a team that won the Super Bowl. He was graded out with the best coverage grade in the NFL by any safety. He is an absolute stud, if you ask me. I watched him at the
He's
University of
actually a better.
Cincinnati.
He's not as thick built as Byard. He's got a leaner built, but he's a big hitter.
A
He'll
huge
he'll knock
hitter.
something.
Bears
Yeah,
fans are gonna
he'll
love
knock your dick off. He's just what this was a trade. Yeah, Byard. Look at the money he got. He got $9 million, only a 1-year deal. They got this guy for $1 million more. He's 7 years younger and 0.3 of a second faster.
and
That's a no
man,
brainer.
he's so good. I think, and he's versatile. One thing that I don't think fans realize this, but one of the biggest problems with our defense last year, aside from the fact that we were ravished by injuries all over that defense, was our safeties. While they played pretty well, one of the guys was always playing deep center field, and that was Byard, and Brisker was always in the box. That limited what Dennis Allen can do on defense, and it's different than what he's done in the past. Um, what he likes to do is disguise those safeties. So you don't know which one's going to drop back, and you don't know which one's going to come up and support the run. And that's one thing that Kobe Bryant can do. He
Yeah,
played this year. He started as a free safety, and they won a Super Bowl. In 2024, before they drafted Nick Amanawore, he was the starting strong safety, and he's good in both roles. So he's a guy who can play either position, and I think that's what they want: are two safeties like Kobe Bryant, so they can confuse offense.
basically interchangeable
Yep.
guys and guys they can trust in man coverage. Here's the problem: we saw it in games, and one of the reasons they went out and got, they re-signed Jackson at linebacker and went out and got Devin Bush. TJ's here for one more year. He's stuck by the contract they gave him last year. They could do a post June 1st, but I don't see that happening because he's good to have in the locker room. He's a good player, just can't cover. But that was
Yep.
the problem. When you put some of these guys in man-to-man coverage, Brisker is not a good man cover guy. Byard is not a good man cover guy. They're too slow. Brisker just loses his guy. He can run and he'll hit you, but he's not. He's better in zone than he is in man. They want to play a lot of man, and you got to have your safeties being able to cover in a situation like that, and that's what they're looking for. Safeties who can man. When I say cover, man cover, and also be really good zone players. Byard is an excellent zone player because he's got great instincts. He's got good range. His anticipation is really good, but he still can't run. So, and now, last time he ran, he was just under 4.6 when he came out. That was 11 years ago.
Yeah, long time ago. I mean, his instincts do play a good part. I've seen him cover a lot of ground because he knows where the ball is going to be. So
Absolutely.
I won't take that away from Byard. I really did think he was going to be a priority, that we re-signed him this offseason. If you would have asked me a week or two ago, are we re-signing Kevin Byard? What are the chances? I probably would have said 90%. But here's what I believe happened. I believe they tried to re-sign Byard. They
I,
talked
I
about it
yeah,
before
I
we
agree
got
with
to
you.
free agency. And then they couldn't reach a deal before we hit free agency. And I think he thought his market was going to be higher than it was.
That's
And
right.
basically the Bears pivoted and said, if we're going to pay that much for a safety, we might as well go out there and see if we could get a guy like Kobe Bryant. Even the Chiefs, Brian Cook would have been a good fit as well. I had them ranked pretty similarly, both really good safeties. And that's what happened. We went out, we got Kobe Bryant, and we've gotten a lot younger, we've gotten faster, and we got a guy. I think once he starts playing and they see this guy in a Bears uniform, Bears fans are going to love him because they
Hey,
love
I
those
did
guys.
him when he was at Kansas. The guy's a player.
When you can come up and hit as hard as he can, lay the wood, and intercept the ball, he's a guy fans are going to absolutely love.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be a fan favorite real quick. I'll tell you the signing that I really like that doesn't get a lot of notoriety is Khalif Raymond.
Mm, it's a big one. You're taking him from a division rival. He's a guy who he's a dangerous slot receiver, which
He
is
is.
something we don't really have right now. He's really good in the slot, and he's a weapon as a punt returner. If he can return to the form he had 2 years ago, and he's been two-time All-Pro as a punt returner. He can really help this team out, and he's doing it on a value contract.
Yeah, no, it was a super signing. I didn't know how fast he was, so I looked it up. And he's been out a little while now.
Yeah,
He was 4.35 coming out. Didn't go to the combine because he went to Holy Cross. How about
mhm.
this? Bears got two Holy Cross players on their team. And you're going to say, who's the other one? Luke Newman. Luke Newman
Luke Newman,
graduated from Holy Cross and then went to Michigan State as a grad transfer. Uh, it's odd because it's an FCS level school and Northeast FCS, which really isn't that good. But Holy Cross always has a good program. They're well coached. They're not going to get the players to compete for, to be in the FCS playoffs or anything. But it's a good program and it's a good school. The guys who come out of there are really smart kids. So, but this guy, he can run. You watch tape, like from last year and the year before. You get him out in space, he's like a freaking bullet. He's so fast.
I mean, he's cooked our defense a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Great comment here by my man Joseph. He says, "Give me Lee Hunter, Danny Dennis Sutton, Jake Slaughter, and Bud Clark with our top four picks."
Lee Hunter
Uh,
is not a fit. I love Lee Hunter, but he ain't a
I like
fit.
him. I like him. I would
He is.
like that. We'll see how it goes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what we got to do.
only like I said, the person I talked to said that's not what they're looking for because that's what I thought they were looking for, and he said no, we're not doing it. DA doesn't
Oh,
want. So we'll find out. They could change their mind because right away, then I just kind of backed off the Ohio State kid.
yeah, because I really like the Ohio State kid. Caden McDonald is a favorite of mine. I would be really happy if we got him. I think he
I'd
would
rather
really improve that
when you look at how
line.
they test. Now McDonald hasn't tested yet, but he didn't look that twitchy at the combine. He didn't do the measurable stuff, but a lot of the drills he was smooth, but he wasn't ultra quick. The guy who jumped out that was bigger was the Missouri kid.
Oh, Zion Young?
No, not
Oh,
the
Chris
defensive.
McClellan. Chris McClellan, the D tackle, yeah.
Yes.
I like Chris McClellan. I think he's a guy we could also potentially get on day two. He's not going to end up being a first round pick. So
No.
he's a guy I really like.
I got a list. Here's what I do, and I'm using like Dane Brugler's
Hey, Brugler, yeah.
or DJ's ratings just to figure out okay where these might go. And if I'm the Bears right now, I'm trading out of 25. I'm
Trading
trying,
down.
yeah, trading out
Mhm.
of 25. Go to the top part of the second round. You're going to probably pick up another third, which you're going to need now because you're not getting the comp picks.
Yep.
And where's my list here? Edges. Zion Young, Derek Moore, Gabe Jackus, Danny Dennis Sutton and Malachi Lawrence.
I love Malachi Lawrence. I think all those edges, all of those guys fit pretty well. I think Derek Moore and Zion Young are perfect fits for Dennis Allen's defense. They're really good at setting the edge, and they have a little bit of explosion and length as well. I think they'd be great fits.
Oh, no question about it. The guy, I think Gabe Jackus, when you watch his game, I think he's a perfect fit too. He's a captain in Illinois. They're working out today. He did nothing at the combine. He didn't even do position drills, but they're working out right now. But none of the big wigs from the Bears are there, so that kind of surprises me. And they can't. Illinois is not considered a local school for the Bears, so they can't work them out at Hallis. They'd have to go down to Champaign. Illinois is actually
not considered a local school.
It's a cold school. Know what it was? Notre Dame and rather the Colts and the Bears both wanted Notre Dame. The Bears got Notre Dame, and so the Colts got Illinois. And actually, Illinois is like an hour and a half, 2 hours from the Indianapolis facility.
Quick question. One of the defensive tackles that wasn't mentioned that people in chat are talking about, and I like as well. What about Peter Woods out of Clemson? You not a fan of him?
Real short arms. As soon as I saw the real 31-inch arms, when I saw that, I go, that just eliminates people. Same thing with both Miami defensive ends, and the other guy's old. You might be looking at the one guy at 25, but he's got 32-inch arms and he's 25 years old. He'll be 25 in 2 weeks. So are they going to spend a first-round pick on a 25-year-old? That's something Poles doesn't do.
What is that? TJ Parker? I thought I read he was younger than that.
No, the Miami.
Oh, you're talking about Mesidor, yeah. No, the one reason I would say where we're at right now, I think it wouldn't be as bad as in the past when we were trying to build the foundation of this team.
I don't disagree with, but still, it's a first round pick. Look at Loveland. Loveland was 20 freaking years old.
But that's when you're picking in the top. I think when you're picking in the top 10, you got to take those guys. Now at 25, the guy I like that's really young, that'd be Peter Woods or Cade McDonald. But if you want a guy that can come in and make an instant impact right away, and then 4 years from now, if you have to let him go because we're paying Caleb, it wouldn't hurt us too much. That would be Akeem Mesidor because by then he's 29 years old and you probably don't want
and that's exactly it. He gets a second contract. You got to assume that your first round pick's going to get to a second contract. And so then you're going to say he's 25 as a rookie and you pick up, he turns 25, I think it's like April 5th or something because I looked up his birthday yesterday. So he's 25, 26, 27, 28 for the first, for the 4 regular years, 29 for the 5th year option if you go there. I just think it's when you're looking at kids that old, especially along the line, you got to ask yourself, has he already hit his ceiling?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's a really good player. I just say that, you want to go 23 max with one of those picks.
I agree with you on that. I do like to occasionally give the play devil's advocate a little bit and talk the other. We got a guy who just keeps coming in here on other accounts saying Gabe idiot, Swift loser. I've banned this guy like 4 times and he has like other accounts. So I'm just gonna laugh at him and let him chat for a minute. But I tend to agree with that. I don't want to draft Akeem Mesidor, but I was just trying to provide a counterpoint to one of the reasons I
get it. And you know what's going to happen if he's sitting there and they trade down or they take somebody else, you're going to get people, how did they not take that guy? Well, that's why.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. And great question here by my man All Day. He says he feels like the cost of Byard and Nashawn Wright was worth bringing them back on 1-year deals. 2 players for less than $15 million. Maybe they wanted to leave, but we could have brought them back. Do you have thoughts on those two guys?
I don't even think they. I think what you said. They probably tried to do a deal with Byram, and they couldn't come
Byron,
together
yep.
on the numbers. With Nashon Wright, I think they let him go. He struggles. If it's a
In coverage.
multi-cut route, he can't stay with the guy because he's not sudden. He's got great ball skills, but
And great
he
length.
doesn't have the suddenness that you want a corner to have, and that's where he gets beat. And he gets beat a lot because of that.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think they want to be better on coverage. And it goes with another question that someone asked here. They asked if you think that cornerback is an option at pick 25. I'm going to say no. I think they want to see what they have in Tyreek Stevenson, and they want to bring in some guys behind him, but they're not going to bring in someone to start ahead of Tyreek. It's the
and,
last year of his deal. They want to see what he has. And if someone takes his job, it's going to be probably Terrell Smith.
and Terrell Smith is, they're going to know before the draft what the condition of his recovery is. Don't forget, he got hurt in August. Got
Right.
hurt, so he's well on his way to recovery. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if he's taken part in OTAs, maybe not be 100%, but pretty damn close. So I know his agent. I should call his agent and find out how he's doing.
Thought he tweeted something the other day making it sound like he was healthy or at least close to getting healthy.
Right.
Said something about hashtag
But
ready, like
I can
ready
find
to
out
go.
from his agent, real easily um, how he's doing, and then have an answer for the next time we do this. I just got to remember to do it.
Yeah. But do you think corner is an option at 25, or are you with me? You don't think
No,
that's
not
something
really. Don't forget they got Za Fraser from
South Fraser
last
too?
year,
Yep. Fraser.
uh, and they'll bring in somebody else cheap again that somebody can't afford, and go from there because you got Jalen wasn't healthy at all last year. Terrell Smith gets hurt.
Tyler
So
Gordon only played 2 games.
right. So all these guys are back this year. You just got to hope that knock on wood, they stay healthy,
Yep.
and
Knock
the
on wood.
situation is going to be a lot better. So no, I don't see that. I think if they traded out of one, so you'd have 3 second-round picks and probably 2/3 if they did that you'd see a safety, an edge, and then I'm not sure what they do with the others. I don't see a center if they use their own third, which is a late third. That would be the earliest I'd take any of these centers.
Yeah, I think third is probably the hot spot for center, but it is a
It
good
really
draft
goes
with
into the fourth round, and the Bears aren't till the end of the fourth. So then it becomes if you like a guy, and they're let's say they trade out of one and they get a third, so then they'd have 2/3. You'd use the later of the 2/3 on the center because you want to make sure you get them.
Good point. Good point. And so we haven't talked since DJ Moore was traded. I said after DJ Moore was traded that I believe what the Bears are doing is giving themselves the opportunity to get better. But trading DJ, something I've said I thought DJ was getting traded this offseason
I know,
for
and you got to replace them. That's what I said all the time. I didn't mind trading them, but you got to have somebody to replace him, and they've already did part of that with Khalif
with
Raymond.
the lead. And I still
And
think we're going to now draft someone. If you draft a guy in the fourth or fifth round,
well, they don't have
I
the
think
fifth. That's why you got to
well,
trade. That's
we could
another
get one
reason.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I,
why another reason why I think they're going to trade out of one. 25 is just kind of a no man's land. Looking at the way things are
yeah.
going to go. And so I just think, no, it just makes sense to get out of that pick. And there will be teams looking to move up. Not
There
like
could
you're
be a
not going
team
to have.
looking to come up and even take a quarterback like Ty Simpson, who's probably not really a first rounder to me, but they
I,
like having those
I don't
fifth-year
like him at
options.
all, but somebody likes him.
Yeah.
God love him.
No, I mean, just watch him last year. I didn't think he was very
He
good, but
started off. He started off good. The second half of the season, he was pathetic. So, and
it's just
people
one
are
of those
still
things.
trying to build this guy up, though. God love him.
You know how quarterbacks get
I
overdrafted,
know.
man. There's been a lot of bad ones that go, and this is not a great year for quarterbacks. So someone's gonna wanna Someone's going to be reaching, but I do think we're in a really good spot to trade back. You could also package our second rounders and move back with one of those. There's a lot we can do in this draft. I'm excited about it, and I love how the strengths of the draft line up with our weaknesses. It's a good draft for safeties. It's a good draft for edges. It's a good draft for defensive tackles as well. And honestly, it's good at wide receiver as well, which
Yeah, I mean,
not as
and
big.
you're gonna get a good wide receiver into the fourth round, and they
Mhm.
got a fourth round pick. So, uh, to me, they need more picks, and the only way you get more picks and get good fourth or get good picks is trade out of 25. Excuse me.
Um, did you have thoughts? I've had a couple people ask what your thoughts were on Zion Young. You like him, right?
Yeah, I like Zion Young. I think he's a really, really good fit for this. Another guy who didn't work out at the combine, so I want to see what his numbers are. And he did the drills. He looked really good in the drills, and he had a good Senior Bowl. Gabe Jackas had a good Senior Bowl. Why he did nothing is beyond me. But I'll have all this week's pro day stuff by Sunday or Monday at the latest. I get a guy sends them to me every Monday. Sunday or Monday he sends them to me. So by the end of first week April, I'll have every pro day. I got them from last year still. I still got them stored in my computer. I got to delete it. It takes up too much space because the file's like 700,
Super
800
large.
pages long. Did I
Oh
send
man.
it to you last year?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's,
I
you
wasn't
get,
sure if it was last year or the year before, but yeah, I remember getting it. I have seen a lot of talk about running back. The one thing I'll say, Triple R asked who will be our running back in this draft. And there's a couple I like. Jonah Coleman's a guy I like. I don't think he's a good fit. The two guys I think would be decent fits. Mike Washington Jr. from Arkansas, and I like Emmett Johnson from Nebraska. But it is not a good running back class. And if I had to guess right now, I would say we do not draft a running back this
if
year
they do, it
and
won't,
roll with
well, you don't have a 5 and a 6. So it'd be with one of the 2 7s.
the seventh, or you bring in an undrafted free agent to try to challenge Roshan. But if we're
Yep.
going to make moves at running back, I see that happening next year, where you can bring in a guy to pair with Monungai if we move on from Swift.
I,
But
I, I agree. And I
I think
like what
Swift and
Washington did
Monungai
too. He ran so much better than I thought he would. But he's going to go in the second round. The Bears ain't taking a running back in the second round.
and J2K calls out he had 12 fumbles in his career, so I don't know if that's a guy Ben Johnson will want anyway.
Got to protect the rock.
Got to do that. And so I don't see running back. I think it's one of the look at the two positions that are weakest in this year's draft, and to me, it's quarterback and running back. It's not strong at either of those, and it's not extremely strong at offensive tackle or the O line either. So I think this is a defensive heavy draft, and hopefully that's where the Bears spend their focus on.
Well, the
Brisker
the
has not been signed.
tackle. What'd you say about Brisker?
Someone asked if he'd been signed, so I was just saying no,
No, he
not
hadn't
yet.
been signed by anybody yet.
Mhm,
And I thought when he wasn't signed the first day that they might bring him back on a 1 year deal, prove it deal,
mhm.
and maybe they still can. Big seems to think the ship has sailed, and I never texted him about it to see why. But if you get him cheap, why not? But again, I think it's the cover skills. He just doesn't have the man cover skills that DA is looking for.
Yeah, that's the only reason I could see it because I do think he'd be a good fit at strong safety next to Brian Cook at free safety. But if Dennis Allen, like I was mentioning earlier, if he wants to be able to disguise that coverage and he's not satisfied with Brisker's cover skills, then maybe that's a Dennis Allen choice where he doesn't want Brisker back. That's a little confusing to me though. We remember DA talked about it that he wanted Brisker pre-draft, but then Brisker came out after the season and criticized Dennis Allen's scheme and said he wasn't using them right. So I don't know exactly what's going on there, but right now, if I had to guess, I would say Brisker's not back, but I wouldn't be against it at all.
Okay, well, there, guys that you're not going to take in the first round, and I haven't done enough work to know, what they can do with them. But safeties, you got Genesis Smith from Arizona,
Like
Ke-
Genesis.
Keonta Smith from Miami. A guy I really like as like a strong safety guy is the LSU kid, AJ
AJ
Hall.
Halsey.
Yeah,
Halsey, yeah.
good
Great. I
player.
love Halsey, man.
Okay, Zachy Wheatley, Penn State, another good player. Um, Guy I really like doesn't get any love. Maybe it's because he's white. Michael Taft from Texas.
Oh yeah, Taffy. Yep.
He's a
Pretty
good
decent.
player.
I mean, I like Wheatley from Penn State. I like
Yeah,
Bishop,
Kamari
USC,
Ramsey from
Murray Ramsey.
USC, Jalen Kilgore from South Carolina. They're a bunch of good safeties.
And a guy that caught my eye at the Senior Bowl this year was Bud Clark from TCU. I thought he had a really good
I
week.
did some stuff on him yesterday, and he's not a big hitter, but he can cover.
Yeah.
So,
And then Aldo is actually in the chat. So I gotta go ahead and read Aldo's question here. Shout out to our man Aldo over at the Barroom Network. He says Adam Schefter is saying teams covet draft picks for next year and that strategizing for the 2027 draft is already underway. Is that really a strategy GMs use?
um, yes and no, because you don't. Well, first of all, if you're looking for a quarterback, yes, because it's going to be a quarterback heavy draft, supposedly. Now, you can counterattack that by saying none of these guys have been picked apart yet. When you start picking them apart, all of a sudden you're finding all the warts. It's the same with all these players. You don't have complete reports on them. You got, well, this guy's going to be great. This guy's going to be great. But you haven't really written the guy in depth. You can't ask a scout to go into school. He's only spending 1 day, maybe 2 days most of the school on a school call. You got to do all the guys in this draft and then ask them to do the underclassmen. There's not enough hours in the day to get all that done. So after the draft in May, you got the 2 different combine meetings, Blusto and National. You get the we call the Bible, and it's their grades on guys, but they're not close to being accurate. I'll give you a perfect example. One of the services had Singleton, the running back from Penn State, who I really like.
I like Nicholas.
Okay. Yeah. They had him as the number 3 player in the country this year going into the season, and he didn't even start for Penn State.
Goodness, yeah, Katron Allen. Wow, yeah, that's crazy. But I do
Singleton
think
was a starter a year ago, and Allen was the second guy.
I do think next year's draft has a lot more top end talent than this year's. Even if you're looking outside quarterback, where there could be 4 or 5 quarterbacks, you got guys like Jeremiah Smith, the Ohio State wide receiver, who's a special prospect. Colin Simmons, the Texas edge rusher, who looks incredible. A bunch of safeties, a bunch of corners. You got running backs like Nate Frazier.
Alabama's got a receiver too. That's a
Smith, I believe. Right.
Yeah.
And then you got guys like Jordan Seaton at offensive tackle. There's a handful of safeties, guys like KJ Bolden, Keon Sabb, Jalen McClain, Cam Coleman at wide receiver. I just think it's you got Ugalele, the Oregon edge rusher who went back to school. The guy
you know why they're going
Ryan
back to school? NIL.
Yeah,
and it's going to take a couple years to catch up because you were getting, for years we were getting 100 guys or more in the draft from underclassmen. And last year there was like 50. And so it's going to take a couple years to even itself out. But reality is NIL is good for us because guys are getting more experience in college.
They're staying an extra year and becoming better overall prospects. But so that was great question by Aldo. I think each GM is different. You never know what certain GMs. I do think there's a couple GMs out there. If your team doesn't have a quarterback and you're not picking number 1 overall, this is a perfect year to tank. And that might be why the Jets went out and got Geno Smith, because they know they just need a bridge guy to get him to 2027, and then they can take a top quarterback then. And Geno helped the Raiders acquire the number 1 overall pick this season, so you never know if he could do it again. But I do think next year's class is extremely talented. That was one of the big reasons I've talked about it. I did not want to trade for Max Crosby if we had to give up our 2027 first. I would have given up a first this year and maybe another pick like a first and a third, but giving up that 2027 pick when the draft class is stacked, and you never know how the season's going to play out. We could always have a down year and end up with a much higher pick as well. So to me, you got to keep those 2027 picks. I do think it's a very stacked draft class. And obviously, we don't know who's in it yet, but that is something to keep an eye on going forward.
Yeah, no, for sure. But again, I'd trade, and that's another reason why I'd trade out a 25 this year. I just don't like the way it's going to be lined up when you get around 22 in that area for the rest of it, because you might get the exact same player at 35. So
That's
why
one
not
thing
pick
they
up an
could do.
extra pick?
You said it. If they trade down, there are other things they could do because everyone imagines if we're trading down from 25 that we're getting a second or third rounder this year.
You're
But we
not
could
getting a
trade down.
second, but
Yeah,
you'd have to go back far to get a
we'd have to
second.
go really far down.
But if they
Yeah,
go
but
to if they go to 34, 35, they're going to get a third round pick.
great. J2K asked a great question. Do you think it's worth it considering the fifth year option they have on players?
Uh, it can be, but you got to really like the player.
Mm.
And at that point, it's how do you have your board set up? What kind of grade do you have on the player? Put it this way: if there's a guy at 25 they really like because the other people passed on, well, then you're going to take that guy.
Oh yeah,
But I'm just saying, looking at how a lot of these people got players ranked now, and how I've seen a lot of them too, I'm going, well, yeah, if I get them, fine, but I might be able to get them 6 picks later.
yeah.
So I trade out.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. Obviously, it's hard to know what's going to happen on the board at 25. You understand that for sure. And if someone is there they like and they take that pick at 25, then I believe we could easily, just like they did last year, trade back with one of the second round picks. You got two picks and three selections there. One of those they could trade down with. This pick 60 stands out to me. And
Yeah,
I'll
I,
ask
I
you
mean,
this
well,
question.
again, it depends on what you're looking at, and if they trade out of 25 and get a third, then it doesn't mean you got to trade out of 60.
Yep, for sure. And great question by D. Starin here. He asked, "Would you trade your pick number 25 for a first next year and another pick this year, like a third or a second?" I would, especially if you can have another shot at next year's draft and it's coming from another team, and
I
because
don't see a team doing that.
I don't either, but you saw sometimes it happens. The Falcons did it this year. They traded up. I think it was right around where did they get James Pierce? It was somewhere right around 25.
But part of that was they said, well, we don't like what we're seeing next year.
Yeah.
So,
Or they got impatient and wanted the guy right now, because he
well,
filled
they
out
made a
the
mistake with that too because he might miss the season or at least
he,
6 or
he
7
might
games.
be done for a long time. But
Yeah.
yeah, they did the trade they did, and this is I would be all over this. They basically got a second rounder in 2025 last year. So they moved down from the 20s um, to the mid second round. So they moved down like 20 some spots. They picked up a first rounder this year and then gave back a third this year. So that is a trade I would be all in if we got an offer like that 100%. It's very doubtful. You got to get lucky, and a team has to really love a player that's on the board, and you
Yeah,
don't
you
love him.
gotta. It's what are your needs? What are you trying to accomplish? And so, it there was times we were presented with situations like that, and we talked about it, and I was like, number one, we don't know what next year is going to be like. We can anticipate it, but we don't really know. And number two, we need certain players this year,
Mhm.
and so
And they do have
I
some
want to
holes
make sure this
here
year's
right now.
team's good enough.
Mhm. Now that would be moving down like the Falcons last year moved down, or the Falcons moved up from 46 to 26. So it's a pretty big jump. It's not just like going down 5 to
Well,
10
yeah,
picks.
that's 20 whole picks. That's a real lot.
you're losing out on a pool of players that are going in that area. So
Right.
that's a tough one there. I would do it just because I do believe next year's draft is very talented, but
Okay, but
I
now
don't
let
think
me
it's
let,
very likely.
you look at that trade they made. Where's the guy who made the trade? He got fired.
Yeah, he did. He's gone. He's gone now. Even though the guy he traded up for had 10 and a half sacks. Great question by J2K. I love this one. Because I think it's perfect this year. I think it fits our needs. He says, "Do we draft a center to groom for a year behind Garrett Bradbury?"
Yeah, but you're not taking them high. None of these centers are worthy of a. You might take them in with a late three, but
Yeah,
you almost rather have them in the fourth. Like that kid, they were at Kansas State yesterday. So people, oh, that's the guy they're going
Sam
after.
Hack.
Well, first of all, they're at Oklahoma today. They went from Kansas State down to Oklahoma. I've done that drive. It's like a 3-hour drive going from Manhattan, Kansas, down to uh, Oklahoma City, and Norman is just a suburb of Oklahoma City. So it's they had a bunch of people there. That doesn't mean that's the guy they're going to take because they could go watch him and don't like him. Watch him move around and have your line coach with him. But the same thing is today. There's another guy, an offensive lineman. I guess he played guard, but they're projecting him to center, and I don't know anything about that guy. I got to watch tape. But they're trying to find a guy they can get at a certain position to develop. And who's that going to be? I don't know. I thought he was a hell of a center, but they won't bring him in. He probably won't get drafted. Maybe goes in the 7th round. But Olin's kid, he's just too short.
It's going to be a late round guy for sure. If someone did say that I saw a couple comments. We don't need a center. We got Luke Newman. Look, I think me and Greg both like Luke Newman. Greg actually was one of the first people to talk about Luke Newman last year, right after the draft, because you had already did up a scouting report on him. I like Luke Newman. I think he's a very solid player who could be our center of the future. That doesn't stop us from drafting the center, if you
Yeah,
ask me.
here's the problem with Luke at center. Except for maybe a quarter and a half of preseason play, he's never played it in the NFL.
So, he's been a guard.
He was a tackle at Holy Cross. He was our left tackle. And then he played guard at Michigan State. He practiced a little bit at the East-West game at center. The problem he had in the game last year is he had a couple bad snaps. Now that's a fixable problem. He is tough. He's strong as hell. He's very, very athletic. But if you got a guy who's a pure center where he's a guard, then get the center. And you want versatility for your backups anyway. If you got a couple guys who can play more than one position, you're in good shape.
You like that, and they like that. You also sometimes have to have those guys to bring on the active roster because not all your backups are active. So you want guys who are versatile enough to be kind of your swing interior guy, is what they call it.
Sometimes you prefer to dress 7 offensive linemen on Sunday so you can have an extra. And if you got versatile backups, you can do that. If you don't, you got to dress 8.
Yeah, and J2K asked who our backup guards are besides Luke Newman. I don't know if you missed this or not, J2K. We did re-sign Jordan McFadden. Shout out to my guy.
McFadden actually played in the when Tooney went out to left tackle in the Ram game. McFadden played, and I made it a point to watch him. He actually played pretty damn good.
He did. He actually, I mean, he held his own, and now we just got him back on a 1-year deal. So I love that. Joseph asks, he says, I think you need to keep your picks this year as you have to stay in your window, especially with the offensive line's age. What do you guys think of the Navy running back, fullback gadget guy? I think his name is Heidenreich, or I remember him at the Senior Bowl. He was really good.
Yeah, and he worked out good at the combine. Part of the thing with the Navy is you got to make sure that he's going to be available. And that can be tricky, but you'll have the answer to that before the thing. But he won't be able to take part in a lot of the off-season stuff. You'll have him at camp. So it's a tricky situation. I'd almost rather have the guy as a free agent than have to use a draft pick on him. But don't forget, as it sits right now, they have no 5 and they have no 6, but they got two
Yeah,
sevens.
2 sevens. Yeah, 2 sevens, 2 seconds. No fifth or sixth. Really would have liked to have that extra third round pick so we could do a little bit more willing and dealing, but unfortunately that ship has
I'm going to tell
sailed.
you, I know it's sale, but I still think there's going to be a conversation between George McCaskey and Roger Goodell at the owners' meetings at the end of this month.
Hmm, definitely see. I could definitely see it happening. Uh, let's see. Uh, AKW asked, does Greg have a late round guy this year that could stick in the league, similar to a CJ West or a
Well,
Luke
CJ
Newton?
West went in like the third or fourth round.
He did. He did. But
You
he
know,
was.
CJ,
I mean,
oh,
I think he
he's
was a
a
day
good
three guy.
player. Good player. Really liked CJ West. I, you know, I've written probably over 400 guys for this draft for the agents I do work for, but I don't remember them all. I got to go through them, because
Yeah.
I'm already at about 100 for next year. So it's going back and looking up the report. I got them. They're all filed in my can't talk. Filed in my computer, but I got to dig them up and look at them so I can remember exactly what I said. Like that Texas safety when I did him, I really liked him. He
Mm,
ran 4.51, 4.5, which is that's fine for a safety, but
yeah.
I like it. Real instinctive, real tough, good hitter. Um, don't remember how good he covers if he's put in man situations. A lot of these safeties you're seeing now come down and play the nickel if they
Hmm.
can cover, and that's a good thing. The TCU kid does that.
You know, that's what the Seahawks who won the Super Bowl. That's what their second round pick, Nick Manawore, who we both liked last year. Both of he did that a lot. He did that all throughout the playoffs and the
Yep.
second half of the season. Um, you heard of Damani Capehart, the defensive tackle from Clemson? I
I
don't think
haven't
I've
done
done.
him. I've done the other guy, but and when
I
Peter
watched.
Woods had real
I watched
short
Peter Woods. Yeah.
arms, I just knowing what these guys want and how important length is, and Woods had like 31-inch arms, 31 and a quarter inch arms. I just thought, well, that's going to eliminate his ass. So you got to look at what the profile, and when you got to what we did, Swifty, is we had a guy's grade. So let's say it'd be a first round grade, say it was a 68. So he'd have an A. You're saying he's a first or second round player. That's what the letter meant. So A 68. Okay, that's a first round grade. And then after his numbered grade, you had a plus, nothing, or a minus.
Mm,
So if it was a A68 plus, that means he's a fit. You want him, you can plug and play the guy. If he's a minus, you're giving him credit for what he can do. He's a good player, but he can't play in your system. So you never take a minus. And a vanilla is he's missing something. He's not a perfect fit. And I'll tell you who was a vanilla, and we took him in the first round. Greg Olson, tight end, because he couldn't block worth a shit when he was at the University of Miami, and our tight ends had a
or
blocker.
here. Yeah.
But that so that's why he had I think he had an A68 grade, maybe an A69 grade, but it was vanilla because he wasn't a good blocker. And in today's game, that's a long time ago. It's not quite 20 years ago. In today's game, he'd be a plus because he's a move tight end that you didn't have like Loveland or something like that, where you didn't really have that position then when we took him. He became that position.
Yep. Great point there by Greg. A couple other questions I saw in chat. Let me get to some of these questions. Someone asked if you think we'll sign another safety before the draft.
Yeah, I think it's a good chance. I got to look who's out there. It wouldn't shock me. I got to say, I got to make a call. I want to see if there's a hard on they got for Brisker. It might be what you said. He criticized DA, and that closed the book.
It might have. It might have. And then multiple people asking, I haven't seen this yet, but apparently there's rumors of Arizona Cardinals edge rusher Josh Sweat wanting out of Arizona. We went there last year in free agency to reunite with his old coach Jonathan Gannon. And now apparently there's a lot of reports that he's on the trade block. Do you think he would be a fit for the Bears after not pursuing him in free agency last year? I would say 50-50.
I haven't studied him, what he did there. And let's look up, see what he did last year.
But yeah, I don't remember what he did last year too.
He was with Arizona.
Yeah. Got another one here. So, Eric asked odds of Brisker coming back. We talked a little bit about that. We'll see. We'll see.
And yeah, I thought a couple days ago it might be, and then I'm hearing, and then you mentioned too, no, that ship might have sailed.
I'd like to see it. I've always liked Brisker. I think coming off his best game as a pro, what he did in that Rams game in the playoffs, but got to see more consistency out of him. It looks like he had 12 sacks last year, actually his career high. Started 17 games for the Cardinals.
It's funny. He had 30 total tackles, played 17 games, and 12 sacks. Yeah, I mean, how old is he?
20. He'll be 29.
Okay, 28 now. Yeah, be 29 in a couple weeks. So
not bad.
Get rid of that one. I don't know. At 29, what are you going to give up for him?
Yeah, that's the point. I mean, if you could get him for a third or fourth round pick, which is what people were suggesting, I think we would probably be interested in that. I don't see us trading away top capital.
Let's see what his contract is. That's even more important.
I think it was valued like something like $19 million a year, which in this edge
rush that means he might come down a little in value as far as because it's a high price.
Yeah.
In fact, give me a second round.
These other guys getting $30 million a season. I mean, that's kind of a value contract.
When you look at the Bears getting a second round pick for a guy with that kind of cap number for DJ,
yeah,
that was a steal. Because look what happened where the Colts, after they re-signed Pierce, they traded the other receiver, and all they got was a late pick because he had a $24 million.
Michael Pittman's a good receiver. Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to find. Here's Arizona. Let me see what they got here.
So it looks like it's structured pretty nice too. His cap hit this year is $16.3 million, and then his cap hit.
Yeah, but you don't worry about the cap hit because the signing bonus comes off. It's his salary. His salary is $9.7 million. See, they got a huge cap hit on here, and so I can't see that happening.
Ooh, for
Sweat.
Oh, Arizona would take it, you mean?
Yeah, they got
they traded him.
So, that's probably doubtful.
Trade. They would take 14 million. Well, if they wait till after June 1st, it's a lot less. Only 4 million if they wait till after June 1st. But that's something you can't designate trades. I remember I looked this up.
Nope. Can't.
After we traded DJ Moore, people were asking if we could designate it as post June 1st, and I was like, nah. There's a good name thrown out there by Aldo though, Jordan Poyer, a guy who was in Buffalo, a veteran. If you can get him cheap,
34 years old and can't run.
Yeah,
I know the Buffalo players. And speaking of Buffalo, the guy that signed from Buffalo, Cam Lewis.
Yeah,
the little dude can play.
He's good. I think here's what I said about him. I think he's perfect for depth because a couple reasons here. He's going to be active because he's a special team standout. And then he can play all over the secondary. His career snaps, he has around 500 snaps at nickel, at strong safety, and free safety. So he can back up all three of those spots.
He's real smart. And he played safety because of injuries. They had like nobody else. You don't want him at safety. He's 5'9.5". He's too short, but he's real instinctive. He's tough. His best spot is he's going to replace C.J. Gardner as the backup nickel. And if they want to, use two, he can do it. Uh, I got a text and right after they signed him from a guy named Paul Peck. He's the play-by-play guy for the University of Buffalo. That's where Cam's whole career has been in Buffalo. You know, he's
Yeah.
from Detroit, but he played at the University of Buffalo. Then he went to the Bills as an undrafted free agent, spent 6 years with the Bills, played a lot of
Worked
football.
his way up.
Yeah. So, you know, a real program guy comes in as an undrafted free agent, practice, bounces back and forth between the practice squad and the regular squad his first few years, and then finally makes the team. Had a start like 7 games, I think, a year ago, and put up some pretty good numbers. But his head coach was Leipold, who's the Kansas head coach. He was the head coach at Buffalo. So Paul Peck sends me a text. He goes, Coach Leipold said he's the toughest guy he has ever coached.
Ooh, I love that. I think he's perfect. He's versatile. He can play anywhere in the defense. We got him cheap. He's a perfect third safety, but can also back up nickel. So if something happens to Kyler Gordon, he could go right over there. I love that move. I think Cameron Lewis, obviously not a needle mover, but people forget, man, and this is one of the things I've seen when you're talking about Twitter and the negative Bears fans out there is people do not realize you got to build a 53-man roster. They act like you're building a 22-man roster, and those
No,
guys are
you're buying guys for depth, and you got it, and they didn't have the depth. CJ came in and made some plays. Okay, so you liked him. Here's the fact: he can't cover man to man, and he's slow.
cooked in the slot, man. He got cooked so badly. Cooked so many
Especially
times.
later. Especially later. Couldn't cover anybody. I mean, hey, Swifty, he'd have trouble covering me.
I would pay to see that. See Greg Cook, CJ Gardner Johnson in the slot. Greg Gabriel.
Get my wheelchair and go ahead.
Get out there and cook him, man. Break his ankles with a little move. Hit him with a double move. Or hit Nashawn Wright with a double move. And that's one thing with our secondary. We're going to be a lot better in coverage. Our safety already we signed is great in coverage. Devin Bush, very solid in coverage. Cameron Lewis is good in coverage too. So that's one thing where we are getting better at, and I love to see it. But we are past an hour here. Great. I'm gonna hang out and chat with the chat for a little bit more and answer some more questions.
Okay. Well, I can answer a couple. Then I got a lot of things to do because they got the kids coming tomorrow.
Okay, let me see. All right, guys, if you got any more questions for Greg, get them in now. I'll answer any other questions after that. Here's one here. Bears have 7 picks. Will Poles try to move down in the draft?
Yeah, I think he's going to move out of 1.
Keith's asking if there's any chance we take Jacob Rodriguez, the Texas
I would have
Tech
said
linebacker.
yes before free agency started, but not now.
Not now. And my man Howie says, do you like Navy's Landon Robinson? He was an East-West Shrine Bowl standout, and then he had an awesome pro day as well a couple days ago.
He's a 6'1", another little guy, 6'1", real short arms. Maybe about 280 pounds. Probably a better fit for Flus's scheme. The guy I like that's the smaller guy is Zane. What the hell's the last name now from Penn State? Zane Dutton.
Oh, Zane Durant. Yeah,
Zane Durant. The dude can play.
He can fly too.
His 25 or 24 tape was crazy good. I thought that he might be potential first round pick off of 24 tape. 25 tape, Penn State went in the toilet. Why? I don't know. And it was a different defense. They had a different defensive coordinator in 25 than they had in 24. But guys that you thought were going to have big years, Danny Dennis Sutton, this guy, did not have the years that they had the year before. Dennis Sutton, though, came on after Franklin got fired. I was looking it up because he all his sack production came in the last 5 games after Franklin got fired, which was really weird. He had 6 sacks in the last 5 games.
Yeah, he really turned it on after that. Good question here. They were asked, J2K asked if you know anything about Cameron Ball from Arkansas, and then Spawn asked, go with that. Who are your favorite defensive tackles that are really good fits for the Bears in this draft?
I don't see a lot of good fits. I think the Penn State kid. Let me correct that. Fits according to what I'm told they're looking for.
Yeah.
So there's the Penn State kid, there's the Missouri kid. Then there might be a couple others that I really don't know yet that are down the road. But it didn't shock me that they signed two, because the two they signed are guys that can play the one or the three, and they fit that athletic, speedy type guy that DA is looking for.
Yeah, 100%. And then great question by Kiyu. He asked, how much do scouts actually influence a GM's decision? If a team struggled finding talent at a certain position group, similar his question is regarding the Bears with their defensive line. Does it fall on the scouts as much as it does the
Yeah, he's
GM
the guy. He's got to sell the player.
and the coaches as well? Because you're collaborating with the coaches and you want to bring in guys for a certain scheme. So if
See,
you're looking at guys, some previous picks, think about Zach Pickens and Jervon Dexter. They obviously, how much of an influence was Matt Eberflus on those picks?
okay, I'll give you an example. Two players that we took, because the area we were heavy on area scouts. Guy never left his area, and then we did all the cross checking was done on tape instead of go and make a school visit. So a guy who had made the school calls. Both players we took in the second round, both went to the Pro Bowl. One's going to go to the Hall of Fame. Peanut Tillman and Matt Forte.
Yep.
Chris Ballard was the scout, and Chris Ballard sold the shit out of those guys.
Okay. Really liked them. This is a scouting question for you here by All Day. He says, "Who was Greg's number one player that got away while he was scouting? Someone that you might have pounded the table for, but the Bears did not draft."
Well, I mean, I was at the Bills 3 years and the Giants 17 years.
Do you have anyone in your head
I
that
mean, there
sticks out as
probably
a
is, but
guy
I
you
can't
really
I
wanted?
can't think of
Yeah.
it like right offhand. Right now, I'd have to go through and look and go, oh yeah, I remember I wanted that guy real bad. Like go through each draft. I can't think of it offhand. But
Yeah. So breaking news by Aldo here. The Bengals have signed defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, 2 years, 26 million. A lot of
yeah,
money.
yeah, I thought he might be a guy at first until I had the conversation, and that's another guy. He's not what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So you got to, DA had to play the cards he was dealt last year, and the defense, if it wasn't for the turnovers, the defense really didn't play that good.
Yep.
The
And
Rams game they did. Rams game they did. Now it's like, okay, now it's my turn. And you go back to what the combine and what Paul said at the combine. He said, we sat in these meetings and DA and the coaches gave us the profile of the players that they wanted. And Paul said, and this has really jumped out at me. Paul said, I know I couldn't get it all done last year. He did. He waited till this year for it because he really didn't do a whole lot on the defense last year. He took the defensive tackle, and then he got hurt.
Yeah, and he did sign a couple of guys in free agency, Diallo and Grady Jarrett, but I know everyone is saying they're misses, they're horrible signings. The one thing that I
They
like to
both got,
throw out,
the one guy was hurt most of the year, and the other guy got hurt. So the jury's out. And
both,
you know,
and our
people
defense overall was
got
good.
real quick opinions. I've said this with Aldo a few times. I know for a fact the coaches really like Dale. Now, okay, is it? And in fact, one time Ben Johnson got up there. He goes, "Yeah, I know there's a lot of criticism because the stuff he does doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but he does exactly what we want him to do."
Yeah. My man Emiliano says it's a terrible offseason, basically. He says we missed out on Max Crosby, Tyler Linderbaum, and our picks from the Ian Cunningham deal or
Okay.
comp pick.
Number one, they didn't miss out on Linderbaum. They didn't even try to sign him. There was no freaking way.
Way
That
too
was the
much.
biggest overpriced,
And I've seen in
overpaid
five,
player
10 years.
ever.
It's
He
wild.
went
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
The highest
Got,
paid center was 4 for 72, $18 million a year. Okay,
got
that's
almost $10 million a
he got
year
a
more
50% raise over that. And it's
over
like,
any
what?
center in NFL history. Then that's where it's crazy. It's like
Yeah, okay. If you give him 15%, that's good. He got
that's
50.
honestly, and I was a guy. When I saw Linderbaum was going to free agency and we traded DJ Moore, I said it. I wanted Tyler Linderbaum. I thought with Linderbaum at center here before we traded for Bradbury, obviously, I thought that you could bring him in at center and our offensive line would probably be top five. Our interior would be the best in football. But
People
I
think
thought he would
Bradbury
be
is
amazing.
a shitty player, and he's not. He didn't,
I would have been pissed if we gave him $27 million. But I'm with you,
Oh yeah,
Bradbury. I continue seeing people say Bradbury is a huge downgrade from Dahlman,
no, he's
and I
not.
just do
In fact,
not agree with
the
that.
guy who jumped on the bandwagon for him was Olin. Olin said
Olin,
it's the same guy.
you don't start 17 games and then start 4 playoff games all the way to the Super Bowl, not give up a single sack all year, and be a downgrade. He is
He's
a
played,
very solid center.
not including playoff games, Swifty.
Yeah.
He has played in and started 120 games. Throwing the playoff games, I think it's 126.
He's smart.
He has started
He's
every
a
game
good
he's ever
pass
played.
blocker. Emiliano jokes we should have gave Tyler Linderbaum 40 million this season. Oh my goodness.
You know,
Oh,
it's real easy to spend other people's money, but it's
yeah.
there was no
Oh,
way. Here's what I think would happen, is that they first of all, I think they knew back at the combine that our guy Dahlman was gone. I think because there's talk that they were checking out centers really closely at the combine, ended up interviewing some. Why would you do that if you just signed a guy to a 3-year contract? So I think they already knew that. Number two, then between the combine and Monday, you're having conversations with agents, and you know what range you got to go to get a player done. Okay, they knew Linderbaum was. I thought for 20, I might do it. If it's $1 more than 20, you can't, especially at that position. And so I think when they found out that he's going to cost 20 plus, said no, we aren't doing that. I think their next guy was McGregor or McLaughlin, whatever the hell his name is, with Buffalo.
Yeah, from the Bill McGovern, yeah.
McGovern.
He re-signed in Buffalo. So.
Right, and I think they found that out. He was going to go back. He actually took less money, took a $14 million average. So if you would have gave him the same money you gave Dahlman, you actually upgraded the position. He's a really, really good player. But he wanted to stay in Buffalo. But I think they knew that too. So now then they make the trade. So they make the trade not because they didn't want to go into free agency, because they already knew they couldn't get anybody.
They knew what was going on there. And then you saw another center retire. The Vikings center retired. A lot went wrong there, but we did miss something. There was one thing we didn't talk about here was the left tackles. We brought back Braxton Jones, something that I had talked about all.
Yeah, I thought if they could get him at the right deal, that was a chance of happening.
And they did. And then they also added, I didn't see this coming, but adding a former top 10 pick, a guy with a ton of talent in Jedrick Wills. So now you have a 3-man competition at left tackle. Braxton Jones, Theo Benedict, Jedrick Wills. You bring them all to training camp. You let the best man win. I believe we're solid at left tackle now. One of those guys is bound to step up.
Well,
what are your thoughts?
They gave. I had a feeling they were going to pay Braxton. I knew there's no way they were bringing in Taylor Decker. Taylor Decker couldn't play dead last year. He was so bad. He can't move.
That's one thing. I thought he would be a good fit, but I did not go and watch the Detroit Lions tape to see how he played last year. And seems like he has not only did he lose a step, but he has some
He's got
plaguing shoulder injuries as well.
he's got injuries. He's not practicing during the week. His movement skills are bad. 2 years in a row, he's talked about retiring. He's already retired.
Yep.
So
And he
no,
hasn't signed with anybody yet. No one's paid him.
no. And so, you look at Braxton. I tweeted this out the other day. Braxton physically could not play last year. They didn't have anybody. He tried to play.
Yeah.
And I think that earned him the respect of the coaching staff. And one of the reasons they brought him back. That's why it didn't surprise me.
That was another comment I made. And I didn't want to take a shot at Drew Dalman because I love Drew Dalman. But you got a guy like Braxton Jones who loves football, scraped his way here, earned his way onto the roster, and won a starting job from a small school as a fifth round pick. And then he comes in last year, was hurt, not even close to 100%. And he played so well in camp and worked his ass off. He won that starting job. And people will say, oh, the coaches don't like him. They benched him. He came in and beat out Theo Benedict and Ozzie Trapillo and got the job done and won the starting job. But he clearly wasn't 100%. But Braxton is a guy who loves football. And I would take guys I like having guys like that on the football team.
And the thing is the Bears got to say or got to be conservative with the rehab on Ozzie. But reality is it's 6 to 7 months. And that gets him, to me, he's a PUP guy, which means he misses the first 6 games and then he's going to be on the roster.
Yeah.
And if you want to use a perfect example as a comp, it's Kansas City, Josh Simmons, Kansas City's first round pick, and he never missed a day of camp. His injury was 7 weeks earlier than
Ozzie Trapillo. Yeah.
And I guess it all matches up to, maybe he's ready to go at the opening season, but you're probably better off, and especially now with re-signing Braxton and then signing Wilkes, if Wilkes got anything, because he wouldn't go in the first round if he wasn't that talented.
Yep.
But he's been hurt a lot.
Top 10 pick.
Is now you got to say, you know what? Don't hurry. Don't hurry. Let's make sure you're 100%.
Yeah, and he set out last year to try to kind of get back to 100%, and so you're hoping he is. But I believe that's one of those moves that we already had a pretty good. You already had Braxton and Theo who could come in and compete, and then Joe Tooney is your emergency guy. Bringing in Jedrick Wills, if he can regain his form and look like the guy he was at Alabama in his first couple years in the league, that's a guy who can win the job. And even if we wanted to keep him long term after this year, if you could work out a deal with him, he could battle Ozzie and even be the long term answer. Now the odds are stacked against that, considering he didn't play football last year and he has
only played a
struggled.
little bit the year before that.
Yeah, I think he started 17 games in 2022. And then he only started 13 between 2024 or 2023 and 2024. So it's been 3 years since he started 17 full games. So the odds are stacked against him.
And they probably got him for minimum. His contract's probably $1.8 to $2 million. We'll find that out soon enough.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be very much either. Aldo made a good point for anyone hanging out later, way after our show. Ryan Poles is scheduled to speak to the media today, I believe around 4:30 or 5.
So yeah, that's when he gets back from Oklahoma.
So that's something to keep an eye on. He'll probably answer some of the pressing questions, maybe give us some details that we've been looking for. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he's not going to, and he might say, yeah, there's going to be a few more signings.
Yeah.
That's the advantages of having a private jet to ship you around. You don't have to worry about airlines.
Yeah. And hopefully, I do hope people ask Poles some tough questions. I hope they ask him about Brisker. I hope they ask him about Byard. I hope they ask him about Trey Hendrickson. But all day had another good question here. Since we liked Garrett Bradbury, they say, why did the Patriots let Bradbury go? And usually, you never
Because
know,
they
bro.
drafted a guy last year and
Oh,
he had him play guard last year, and they drafted him to be a center, and they want to get him on the field. That's why.
100%. And they got a draft pick for it. That is a good thing. Teams like to get younger and pick up draft picks. Let's see. I like this comment by Howie. And this is what I like about Jedrick Wills. He's powerful. He immediately has better anchor than Braxton Jones or Theo Benedict. And he's a guy who's a mauler. He loves to finish blocks. He plays violent. That is. What are your thoughts on Jedrick Wills? Do you think he
I,
has a
I,
chance to be that guy?
it's what's he going to be like? He's gone through rehab. You got to see what you get. I mean, you can't say he's going to be the player he was in year one and the player that came out of college. So you got to, once you get him in the off-season program, you see what he's doing. It might be like Leatherwood and be nothing, or
Yeah.
could end up being a bargain. But it's probably not costing the Bears anything. I'd be interested to see if he even got a bonus.
Yeah, and he's a guy, he could do nothing for us. He could get cut after training camp, but if
Yeah,
he can come here motivated, and that's one thing I think fans don't understand. Competition gets the best out of us. And when
yeah.
you have 3 guys competing for one job, that's how you find someone and get them to win. And Braxton now has a chance to come to camp after spending an entire off season working on his lower body, getting bigger, getting stronger. I can't wait to see it. I think it's going to be a great competition because I like Theo Benedict too. So I think we have 3 solid options right
His
there.
problem is his arms are so short. He's only got
Yeah.
32-inch arms. So
He could be moved inside to guard if
that's where he's
the
going to
other
probably
guy.
end up being as a guard. And it probably be a darn good one.
And then I gotta read this comment from J2K. A cage match between Aldo Gandia and Roger Goodell to figure out if we get those comp picks once and for all. Aldo, I know you said you'd bet on Roger Goodell, but we have faith that you could come through for us and get us those comp picks if we can make it work. That's something I'd love to see. I gotta be
I'd pay for it. But I got
yeah.
to run, buddy. It's been an hour and a
All
half,
right.
and I got to get my house ready
Great.
for the kids.
Greg, have a good one, man. I'm gonna hang out a couple more minutes and chat with these guys. None but
Okay.
love for Greg Gabriel, guys. Follow him on Twitter. Greg, I'll catch you soon, my man.
See you later.
Guys, it has been a fun off season, and as always, I love talking to Greg, but I want to hang out a little bit longer so I can actually chat. Greg did most of the chatting for that, and I like to pose him questions from the chat and answer those questions. But now I'll go ahead and give you guys some of my thoughts here. I'm a huge fan of some of these moves we made this offseason. I know there's a lot of people out there right now that think I'm a little too over positive sometimes and that the Bears have gotten worse this offseason. I don't believe that, especially with the draft still to come here. A couple of things that I want to point out about this team and why I think they're better here. The competition at left tackle, that's one of the big ones here. We got 3 guys that I just mentioned. I was talking about all 3 of these guys. They're gonna make one of them is gonna step up and win that job. Theo is a guy you can't rule out, an undrafted free agent. Braxton is a guy who has the size, the arm length, the athleticism. He just needs to get better at his anchor. And then a guy like Jedrick Wills, who was a top 10 pick, if one of them can come in and solidify the position, this offensive line is strong. And I like Garrett Bradbury. Draft question here for my man Emiliano. Would y'all draft a safety at pick 25? He said he would if Thieneman or Warren are there, but he'd take them over almost any edge. That's tough for me. I do like Keldrick Falk. The guy that I would watch for at pick 25, that I think if he's on the board, he would be a great fit. Howie, I've seen your numbers on Landon Robinson. I get it, man. I love him. I think he'd be a great late round fit. But the guy I'm watching for at pick 25 is Emmanuel McNeil Warren. And Levante just said it as well. I think I think he would pair perfectly with Kobe Bryant. He's another guy who could play both safety spots. That might honestly be what they're looking for here because I think they want to disguise the coverages with the safeties. They don't want to give away, they don't want to let offenses know what they're running pre-snap. So you can have a lot of different looks from the defense and confuse quarterbacks if you can have two safeties that can both play either spot. So I do think that's a possibility. I do think there's a little bit more depth, or there is some depth at edge though. So or at safety. So we'll see how that goes. I do like some of the later safeties, but I do think he would be a perfect fit at 25 there. And I like Cassius Howe. He also said Cedric Falk or Cassius Howe. Cassius Howe's arms are too short. I think unless he measures a lot bigger at his pro day, he's going to be a guy who falls to the second round. Cedric Falk might be a perfect fit though, but we'll see about that. And my man Eric says, "What do we need to do to bring back the Honey Bears?" You might have to start a petition for that, Eric. Bradbury was a first rounder. Tooney was a third. Dahlman a fourth. A lot of talent there. Yeah, Emmanuel McNeil Warren is a guy. I'll briefly talk a little bit more about him. He's a guy who I think could go as high as a top 15 pick. But if he falls and he's there at pick 25, that's definitely something I'd have my eye on. I still think defensive tackle's an option. I think an edge rusher, if he falls there, would be an option. But Emmanuel McNeil Warren could be that guy. And then you add a defensive tackle and an edge in the second round. I could see that because the difference here is at safety, you're drafting a starter, right? If we draft whoever we draft at 25, you'd like them to start. If you draft an edge, they're most likely not starting over Austin Booker and Montez Sweat. If you draft a defensive tackle, maybe they could end up starting, but right now we have 3 or 4 guys on the rotation, and they would have to beat out Grady Jarrett and Gervon Dexter. But a guy like Emmanuel McNeil Warren, he could come in, start right away. All he would have to do is beat out Cameron Lewis. And I'm just talking about, I like Cameron Lewis. I like his versatility, but McNeil Warren would be able to come in and beat him out and win that job. So that's something to watch for. Who do you guys mean by V? Someone just said V is gone. Oh, I thought you were talking about a free agent, maybe. Um, I like this comment by Eric here. He feels like takeaways are about attitude. You know you're going to create them, and you go out and you make it happen. And you see that with a guy like Tyreek Stevenson who rips the ball out of people's hands. I think that would be a great fit. Um, Colton Hood. J2K says, watch out for Colton Hood. He does fit DA's scheme very well. I just do not see us taking a corner early. You got to remember we traded up for Tyreek Stevenson, right? He's a second round pick, and Tyreek actually had his moments last year when he was on the field. So I think heading into this year, I think they're gonna give Tyreek. Oh, okay, I got you. I got you. Um, Virg well, she gone too, but, I think they're gonna give Tyreek Stevenson that chance. Yeah, I get it, I get it, I get it. They're gonna give Tyreek the chance to win that job, and if they're gonna create competition, they're not just gonna hand him the job. That's one thing that Ben Johnson is real with. He loves competition here, and he wants to bring the best out of people. He wants to create warriors. He doesn't just wanna sign guys and hand them jobs. He doesn't wanna draft guys and just hand them jobs. So, there is gonna be competition for Tyreek Stevenson, but I think Ryan Poles is really high on Tyreek, and I think he showed off his skills in the playoffs when he came in a little bit for JJ. So, I think Tyreek is gonna get that chance. The guy who could take his job is Terrell Smith. If T. Smitty came out there and had a huge training camp, he is a guy who could do it. And then you have Zay Frazier, and then I could see us drafting another day 3 corner this year. Now, I wouldn't rule it out because obviously we've taken corners. We've put a lot of value in corners since Ryan Poles has been the GM here. So I could see that, but right now, I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think it's very realistic. AKW said he wouldn't be surprised if we took a first round corner. You could still get a safety in the second or third round. You're right. I can't argue with that. It's a great point. I just right now, my thoughts are we're not going to take a safety very high. Or I'm sorry, we're not going to take a corner very high. Um, Bro, you're hilarious, man. My man Blunt's killing it. Yeah, hopefully T. Smitty is 100%. I think he's a guy. He has the length that Dennis Allen loves. He can play press coverage. Oh, update from Aldo here. Peter Woods killing his pro day today. I'm gonna have to watch the highlights for that and get his official testing numbers. Peter Woods is a guy I really like. Greg didn't seem to be too high on him. I love Peter Woods, man. I think he'd be a perfect fit at 25. I think he's kind of a mix, a little bit of best of both worlds. He's a guy who could play either defensive tackle spot. He's explosive. He's powerful. He has the length you look for. Not super long arms, but I don't think you need 33, 34-inch arms at defensive tackle. I think you need that to play edge. I think short arms are perfectly fine at defensive tackle. And I'm kind of with what Chad's saying here. I'm all for this. I would love to take best defensive tackle available at 25, but I also would not mind an edge or a safety. Um, you mentioned that fans are ignoring the talent at Yes. Who are the specific second round targets that I could see us getting on the defensive line right now? Um, Off top of my head, I'm not gonna I'll tell you some guys. I mean, I think Derek Moore could be there in the second round. I think any of these defensive tackles could fall. I think that's the thing where we don't know where these defensive tackles are going to go. Not all of them. There's a lot of defensive tackles right now, like 8 of them that people have ranked in the top 50. One of those guys could fall. Initially, I thought Zion Young was a really good fit for the second round. Now I think he might go a little bit higher. Yeah, I don't think Woods needs long arms to play defensive tackle. A lot of defensive tackles have short arms. I'm not That's a concern at edge for me, not a concern at defensive tackle. Um, who do you think the best strong safety fit is? I'd probably say Emmanuel McNeil Warren, the Toledo safety. He's one of those guys I think would be a perfect fit. I honestly think there might be a little bit more safeties, a little bit more depth at safety. But like J2K said here, I think Dennis Allen wants guys who could play both safety spots. He wants guys that are really good in coverage and they can come up and handle the run game. And considering that, it's going to be harder to find a safety that can do both. Whereas you can find an edge rusher or defensive tackle that fits the scheme. But a safety that can do both, a safety with the versatility and talent that Kobe Bryant has, if that's what they're looking to do, you might have to draft that safety pretty early. You could probably still get one in round 2, especially if they think that guy could be AJ Halsey. I love AJ Halsey out of LSU, so I love that. Arm length is different depending on the position. Craig bringing up a good point. It's funny how much time he spent talking about arm length. Look, arm length matters in the NFL, but it really depends on the position. If you're playing guard or center, you don't need that arm length because you're pretty much playing in a phone booth. Same with defensive tackle. You're not going all over. You're playing in a phone booth. Whereas if you're on the edge, you got to be able to reach out because guys are trying to get around you. That's the whole point of playing edge. That's why people like longer arms with your defensive ends and your offensive tackles when you're out on the edge or playing on an island. Emiliano, my guy coming through, he says Anthony Hill or Jake Golday in round 2. I like Anthony Hill better. Now, I did watch some UC tape, and I think Golday is a good linebacker, but I think Anthony Hill, I have him ranked higher. I think he's faster. I think he probably plays the run a little bit better, and he has the upside to be really good at coverage as well. When you're talking about Zachariah Branch, the wide receiver out of Georgia. My goodness, I like him. But here's the thing. Blunt's killing me, man. You need long arms for that, bro. You need long no, you probably need short arms for that. But Zachariah Branch is a guy who's gonna go a lot higher than people think. People are getting him in mock drafts on like what? Round 4, round 5? That's not happening. I think he's a guy who could go 2nd round or latest that he's gonna go with Branch is 3rd round. So, you can't get too high on him because you're getting him late in those mock drafts. He's gonna fall down the boards. Good question by Brandon. Are we gonna sign an edge rusher in free agency? It could happen. There are still a couple guys out there, but Bradley Chubb signed today. Clavon Chasen signed. A lot of guys have signed contracts here. Still got guys like Cameron Jordan. There's still a couple of edges out there, but initially I thought Ryan Poles was playing the waiting game at edge and trying to get a value. He can still do that. There's still some guys out there he can sign at defensive end, but clock is ticking here. At this point, he might wait until after the draft. Howie, that's the point here. This is what Dennis Allen wants, and this is why I think we could potentially draft a safety early. If we do that, it's because we don't want a box safety. If we just want a safety to play in the box, they're going to draft him in the 3rd round, even. They're not going to draft him early. But if we draft a safety high, it's because it's going to be a guy who can play in the box and play up top in coverage. He's going to have great coverage skills and the ability to play in the box, similar to Kobe Bryant. And then you have two safeties that can play either spot. They can be interchangeable. And then what Dennis Allen could do with that is he can disguise coverages. Both guys can come up and be in the box, and then one of them will drop back. But the offense won't know every play which guy is going to drop back into coverage. So that would be the reason we draft a safety high. It's going to be because he's a guy who can cover and play in the box. There was another name mentioned there. Good call. Joey Bosa is another guy. So there's some guys out there. You got Joey Bosa, you got Davion Clowney, you got Cam Jordan, who had 10 sacks last year. I think there is a lot of talent, and there's still some edge rushers out there that could help this team out. He said, "Don't read that." I already read it, Blunt. I already read it, bro. I already read it. What about safety from USC? Fitzpatrick, I believe, or Bishop. Yes, he's a good player. I think he's solid. A lot of them are out there that are solid. Von Miller's another one. I think if you're looking for just a situational edge rusher, yes, you can get one, especially if you're only bringing him in for 1 year. I like it. J2K says TJ Parker, take him at 25, and then or is the best fit, and then you go best player available. I don't know if I see us signing Joey Bosa. I don't know if I see us signing anyone, but at edge, but it would help this team. I mean, we could definitely use one more edge rusher. I've said that about Cam Jordan. The guy I really wanted, honestly, was Bradley Chubb. He got paid pretty well too. So at this point, I think we're trying to play value contract here. Which one of these guys out of the edge rushers that are left, and I don't think Jadeveon Clowney is going to be this guy because he always goes where he gets paid the most. Which one of these guys potentially wants to play for a playoff contender, come in and try to get a Super Bowl and take a little bit of a value contract here? If Cam Jordan does that, or if Joey Bosa wanted to do that, then you go ahead and do it. Paul asked if the Jets offered Will McDonald and pick 44 for number 25. Would we do it? That's tough. I would try to get a 2027 pick out of them too. Like if they offered 44, Will McDonald, and a 3rd or 4th rounder next year, I'd do it. Yeah, Kamari Ramsey's a guy who's versatile. I think he's one that really fits. Great call out by J2K here. I think he fits, man. He fits what Dennis Allen looks for, and he's a guy who can play either safety spot. But You're saying he looked out of position when he was trying to cover in man? I gotta go back and watch a little bit more of Kamari Ramsey. I thought his coverage skills were pretty solid. How he disagrees with J2K about TJ Parker, says he has 0 pass rush moves besides bull speed to power. Well, I'll tell you, he's got at least one pass rush move. That long arm, man, his long arm, he did it at the Senior Bowl. He went to it multiple times, and it looked nice. I thought I saw him do a cross chop move at one point as well. I don't know how much he utilized that at Clemson, but guys can learn pass rush moves as they develop. Malachi Lawrence, but that's a question there because you say Malachi Lawrence has the full arsenal of moves. Well, if a guy already has the full arsenal of moves and he's being projected to go lower than a guy who doesn't have the moves, then imagine a guy like TJ Parker who's already rated higher than Lawrence once he learns some more pass rush moves. So that would be my argument with that. But I do like to just provide both sides of the argument. Um, this is another great point here. Ryan Poles does like to double down at positions in the draft. He's done this multiple times, and I could see him doing that with defensive line in this draft. But also see him drafting 2 safeties if he gets one really late as well. I don't see him drafting 2 safeties high, but I could see him drafting 2 safeties. Oh yeah, McNeil Warren is definitely better than Kamari Ramsey. Um, Ramsey would be a second round option, maybe even third if he fell a little bit. But Emmanuel McNeil Warren, we got one shot to take him, and it's at pick 25, and he might not even be there at pick 25. One reason that I actually think we might have a higher chance to get him now than we did before, it's the Oregon safety. Dylan Thieneman, him running a 4.340 makes me think that a team before I thought McNeil Warren was going before the Oregon guy, Thieneman. But after he ran that blazing fast 40, I thought that's good for us because a team like the Vikings might take him instead, and then Emmanuel McNeil Warren can fall to us. I've seen a lot of talk about Kristen Miller. I love Kristen Miller. He's not talked about a lot. I believe he's a guy who could be a 3 tech, penetrate the line of scrimmage. He's got a lot of burst off the line. I think he'd be a great possibility in round 1. If you could get Kristen Miller and Malachi Lawrence with your top 2 picks, I don't think you're getting Kristen Miller in round 2. I think he's better than most of these mocks have him going, and he's going to end up surprising people. I think he's a top 40 pick, but someone's got to fall here. Yeah, look, hey, J2K, that's why I want someone else to take him. I'm not a huge fan of the Oregon safety, but I am a huge fan of McNeil Warren. He's a hard hitter. He can cover. He can play in the box. And he's a guy who also is always around the football and making plays. So I really like McNeil Warren a lot. Um, Another great point by AKW. It's not always great to draft a safety high because they're not that expensive in free agency. Great point, but you also don't see a lot of safeties of Kobe Bryant's ability, guys who can cover and play the run, you don't see a lot of multifaceted safeties in free agency. Usually, guys are one dimensional, right? You got the guys who can play deep, or you got the guys who are in the box safeties, one or the other. If Dennis Allen, if he tells Ryan Poles that, look, my defense will be a lot better if we can play with 2 safeties that I can disguise coverages with, that is the only reason we would do it. Um, Look, Howie, Kobe is a guy who can play anywhere. He honestly was best at free safety. This year, he played more snaps at free safety. Last year, he played most of his snaps as strong safety. This year, a lot. It's also it's a little bit watered down because, especially if you're looking at PFF for those snaps, because he played a lot of times he was playing strong safety, but he was actually playing free safety because the Seahawks had 3 safeties. They had 2 deep safeties, and then they had Nick Amanawore kind of playing nickel as the 3rd safety. and he was a guy who was in the box, but Bryant was over top a lot. He wasn't playing, he did not play a traditional box safety type of role. That's what Nick Amanawore did. Kobe Bryant was in coverage a lot more, and he was a shutdown guy in corner. Great call out by Howie here. Braden Fisk on the Rams has very short arms, and that's how I feel when it comes to defensive tackles. You don't need your defensive tackles to have short arms. Honestly, I've seen it before in the past where a guy who has a lot of potential at defensive tackle has too long of arms, and it actually gets him into trouble because he doesn't have the short area quickness and ability to make those little rip moves. And I think it can actually be harmful to a defensive tackle to have really long arms, especially if when you're playing in a phone booth like that. A lot of times you don't have the necessary room to operate there. Now, I wouldn't 33 inches is fine, but if you're talking about 35-inch arms for a defensive tackle, I think that's overkill. I don't think it's needed, and it could actually hinder them a little bit. But I don't have a problem with short arm defensive tackles. I don't think the only time arm length comes into play here, guys, is offensive tackle and defensive end because they're out on an island and they have so much room they have to cover. Um, yeah, I don't know if we need to draft a linebacker this year. Once we brought back, bro, I gotta address Blunt's comment real quick. McCringleberry will get us too many penalties, man. He can't stop with the pumps. So no, you gotta too many penalties, man. Even if he scores a touchdown, he's gonna get us a penalty. I don't see us drafting a linebacker. No, let me take that back. I could definitely see us drafting a linebacker, but it's not a huge need due to the fact that we signed Devin Bush and we brought back DeMarco Jackson. DeMarco Jackson is a guy who's very solid. Bro, you're killing me. Yeah, Tommy Harris, he had short arms himself, 32 and 1/8 inch arms. Probably the best defensive tackle I've ever seen in a Bears uniform. McCringleberry is from a Key and Peele sketch. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. It was a comedy show, but he got flat. They were doing a football one where he got flagged in the end zone for doing too many waist pumps with his hips, and the ref would be there, and if he could do two, but when he did the third one, the whistle would got blown. Someone in the NFL, I don't remember who was it. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Someone in the NFL actually did that celebration last year and it was great. Um, can DJ Moore make the Pro Bowl this year? I believe he can. Um, I think that's a guy who DJ's so good, man. I've seen Hampton and Mongo obviously on film, but I was born right around the end of their career, so I never got to watch them live. But Tommy Harris is best defensive tackle I've watched in a Bears uniform. I got to be real with that. I thought Tommy had Hall of Fame potential, and I will always believe this with everything I have here. I think Eric might have posted that clip of the McCringleberry. I haven't clicked it yet, but I will always believe if Tommy Harris and Mike Brown would have been healthy in 2006, we win the Super Bowl, we beat the Colts. Tommy Harris is a stud. But when it comes to DJ Moore, yes, I love DJ Moore. I think he does have Pro Bowl upside, especially since I if he was here with the Bears, no chance he made the Pro Bowl this year. We got too many targets. We spread the ball around. That's why it's a win-win. Now that he's in Buffalo, DJ can make a Pro Bowl because he's by far their best receiver here, or that they have. It's pretty much DJ Moore, and then way down here, their second option is going to be Dalton Kincaid, and then a guy like Keon Coleman, who's their third option, man. Um, Bro, I love it, Blunt. Appreciate you, my man. Yeah, two of our best players in that year in the Super Bowl on the bench. And on top of that, with Mike Brown being out, it caused Danielle Manning to have to start, and he got confused in coverage, got beat for that long touchdown by Reggie Wayne. I hated it, man. I think that killed the whole Super Bowl there, and we had no interior pressure with Tommy Harris being out, man. But yeah, I thought Tommy Harris was a guy who could have been a Hall of Famer for sure if he would have stayed healthy. You know, I've never thought about that in all this time, Paul, about Mark Bradley. My friends actually called him Mark Bust Bradley. I always liked Mark Bradley's skills. Um, I don't even know if he would have got a target though if he would have played in the Super Bowl. The guy that cost us was another guy I was a big fan of. Cedric Benson, man. I was happy when we drafted Cedric Benson. I'll tell you what, I watch a lot of college football, and watching Texas that year, Cedric Benson in college had one of the best years I've ever seen from a running back. He was insane. So when we got Cedric Benson in the draft that year, I thought he was going to be our next Walter Payton. I got to admit that. I didn't think we needed a running back because I really liked Thomas Jones. But once we drafted Cedric, I thought he was going to be the truth. And I'll always admit to that. No one's always right, guys. We all have bad takes. We all like players that don't work out. I really thought Cedric Benson was going to be a stud. He didn't have it, but it started off bad right away. He held out. Um, Desmond Clark fumbled, but Cedric Benson fumbled in the red zone too. Cedric fumbled that game, man, and I was a guy who was a huge Cedric fan, and watching him fumble in the Super Bowl, I never forgave him for that, man. I was like, we should have just gave the ball to Thomas Jones. But well, I'm almost at 2 hours, guys. Get a couple final questions in, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I appreciate you guys. I just wanted to chop it up with you a little bit extra because I felt like I had a couple of things on my mind that I wanted to get out there and I wanted to say, and we were killing it. We're having a lot of fun with this live chat. Had a lot of fun talking to you guys all week. I've done a couple live shows this week, breaking down free agency, giving you guys my takes. If we make any other big moves, I'll potentially do it again. I don't think we need oh, Greg Gabriel. Oh, I think I actually talked to Greg about that once. Yeah, rest in peace to Cedric, none but love. I will tell a quick Cedric story. I think I've told this once before, but most of you guys probably didn't hear it. But I was at training camp, used to go to training camp every single year for 20 years in a row in Bourbonnais. At training camp, trying to get an autograph there, and I see Cedric Benson on a cart, and I'm in flip flops here, man. I see Cedric Benson on a cart going the back way, like behind the fans, and I'm like, "Yo, that's Cedric." Hook off! I have my Cedric Benson jersey. I'm probably like I don't know how old I was at this time, probably like 17. Take off running. I catch up to Cedric. The cart is right next to me, right? The cart's going. I'm here. I'm side by side with the cart. Cedric, sign my jersey, bro. Sign my jersey. Do you see the Bears trading for Jalen Carter? No. Um, the guy driving the cart looks at Cedric and says, "Do you want me to stop?" Cedric looks him dead in the face and says, "No." And they just keep rolling. And I stop running and I'm standing there with my Cedric jersey and my flip-flops on. And I'm like, I can't believe this dude did not sign my jersey, bro. I just I wanted to tell that story. I just saw someone ask a real question. Do you think Al has a place in the NFL draft room? Al Harris? Yes, I think Zay Frazier last year was an Al Harris pick. I don't think we take Zay Frazier without Al Harris. And I also think Nashawn Wright was an Al Harris signing. So if we draft a corner late, it's going to be an Al Harris guy. And then another question here. How are we going to fix the worst defensive line in the league after the current free agency period? I've seen a lot of people say similar stuff to this. I do not believe that we have the worst defensive line in the league. I don't think I don't think I've ever seen or we've even seen the full potential of this defensive line. They were never fully healthy last year. Oh, did he say AI? I thought he was talking about Al Harris. No, I don't think AI will play any point in our picks, if that is what you meant. Al Harris, yes. AI, no. Um, does our defensive line need to get better? Yes, a lot better. But I think first, the one way we're gonna fix it is the draft. You have to draft and develop players. And this year's strength in the draft is defensive line. So I imagine we come out of this draft with at least two more defensive linemen, maybe three, and you can sign some UDFAs as well. But on top of that, health, man, health matters here. Last year, Dio Odangbo never played a single snap with Austin Booker. So you really want to have Austin Booker, Dio Dangbo, Montez Sweat, a rookie, and then on the inside you got Javon Dexter, Grady Jarrett getting healthy, and you would have a guy like Shamar Turner who can play as well. So you need these guys to get healthy. Then you got to draft some players, but I do think this defensive line could be better. But another thing here, if our cornerbacks can be healthy, then we could actually do they'll probably help our defensive line a lot. We didn't Jalen Johnson was never healthy last year. Tyler Gordon was never healthy last year. He played 2 games. Shamar Turner was decent. Shamar Turner was decent. He looked really solid at edge, actually. And Grady Jarrett, look, bro. Some of these guys, bro. I grew up. He says you're cut from that silver spoon cloth, bro. I've grown up poorer than probably anyone in here. I don't know where you're going with that. Clearly just making stuff up. But Grady Jarrett is. What questions have you asked, Ludwig? I thought I'm trying to hit all the chat, but there's probably been 7,000 chats in here. If you have a question that you want me to answer, ask it now, and I will answer it. But calm down with that calling with the name calling, bro. Been oh, what did you say? And especially when you're spamming chat, bro. But if you have a question you want me to ask, ask it now. I'll answer it before I get out of here. Um, Grady Jarrett, though, is a guy who's been really good throughout his entire career. The knee injury he suffered a couple of years ago held him back, and then he got hurt last year in training camp. And I don't think that knee was ever 100%. So can we count on Grady Jarrett to come back and be 100%? No. But if Grady Jarrett does come back and he's 100%, that's a huge upgrade on our defensive line. I think he's a really good player, man. A lot of stuff is bad from PFF. Got to call that out. Um, here's what you're missing though, Howie. They had 3 safeties, right? They played more 3 safety looks than any team on the field. So, what PFF does when you're looking at the snap counts there, they count one guy as the free safety, one guy as the strong safety, and then they were counting Nick Amanawore as a nickelback. He was not a nickelback. He was a third safety. He was an in the box safety. And then Seattle played cover 2 over top. They played with 2 high safety. If you're playing deep range and you're playing over top, that is playing free safety in the NFL. That is what the position is. Cover safety. That's a free safety. Um, so I think you're just confusing whether they're on the left or right. A lot of times that's how PFF will make those designations of what safety your position you're playing. But Seattle was playing a hybrid defense that is not like every other defense in the NFL. Um, I wanted the guy who just called me a name and said I've been dodging his question. I wanted him to re-ask his question, but he probably called me a name and then left. I scrolled up for a while too. I didn't see any question I was dodging. Um, but I'm here. Bull Moose says, "What do you think the future holds for our safety position?" Oh, you'll have to go back, man. I've talked about safety a lot in this one. Also discussed it with Greg Gabriel as well. Um, I think the Bears are looking for another safety who's versatile and can play both so they can disguise coverages. That's pretty much the short answer of it there. Um, you're saying no to Danny Dennis Sutton? Mm, I mean, Sutton's a defensive. Well, I was thinking Zane Durant actually. Danny Dennis Sutton is the edge. Malachi Lawrence, I like. We'll see about that. Just said it. Let me see. Yeah. It's a different defense basically. When you're playing with 3 safeties out there, it's not the same where most people think when they think about what a safety is, and they think, "Okay, you have a strong safety who's playing in the box, and you have a free safety that's over top." That is not what the Seahawks did. Yeah, I will do a mock draft soon. I did like 10 last week and was gonna release 1 or 2 on Sunday, but, I just didn't. Maybe I'll do, if you guys want, maybe I could do a live mock draft, either early next week or maybe even tomorrow, depending on what you guys want or if we make any moves, but then I could talk you guys through my picks as well. Um, what about leadership? We just lost 3 captains who are expected to step up. On defense, Jalen Johnson for sure. He's a guy who needs to be a captain. I think Montez Sweat could be a captain. Um, a lot of guys on there. As far as draft rankings, I don't like any of the draft rankings right now. I'll give you a better answer of that when I drop my mock draft because I need to go through them a little bit more. Hopefully, they're updated since last week, and I'll give you guys my takes on which mock drafts are the most accurate. 'Cause the ones I've used so far, I don't like any of them. I might have to find a different one, and there's probably like 8 different mock sims out there, so I gotta try some of the other ones and see if they have better rankings. As of right now, Swift, who would you pick for your first, second, and third pick? Hmm. I would really like let me give you guys one off top of my head. I would really like Peter Woods in the first. If we could get Peter Woods at defensive tackle to start out the draft, and then in the second round, you come back with an edge and a safety, maybe AJ Halsey and someone like Malachi Lawrence. I think that would be really solid. You could get a Romello Height. Um, depends on how the edge room falls. You could get a Danny Dennis Sutton. There's a lot of guys you could get late second round. I like it. Linebacker, I could see us drafting another linebacker, and this is where I would maybe change things up. If Jacob Rodriguez is on the board when we pick in the second round, I'm gonna have a hard time not pulling the trigger there. But I don't think we need a linebacker. TJ Edwards will be back. We have DeMarco Jackson. We have Devin Bush. Then you have guys like Ruben Hippolyte, Noah Sewell too for depth. So we don't need a linebacker, and I don't see us taking a left tackle at all now. Um, but you get to trade pick 25. I love that. We'll do one soon. We'll do one soon for sure. Um, let me see if I got any more questions. I was I was really wanting to answer that guy's question who said I've been dodging his question, but it's been like 7 minutes now and he hasn't commented, so I don't he must have left. So, but I was trying to wait for him to get that question. But guys, none but love for everybody. I'm over 2 hours now. I'll be back. I'll be back probably with another video tonight, if not multiple videos tomorrow. See if the Bears make any more moves right now. I'm not expecting anything today, but hopefully he comes back. Yeah, Plank, he insulted me, said I was dodging his question and left. I tried to answer the question. I asked him to type it again, but he was already gone. He was probably mad. You know how people love being mad. I feel like I'm better at reading chat than anyone else who does live streams out there. So it's like I definitely wasn't dodging any questions. Scrolls says he was asking me out on a date. If that was the case, maybe I was dodging his question. None but love for all you guys out there. I really appreciate you guys so much for hanging out with me, chopping it up. I love talking football. Love talking to you guys. Please hit that like button for me. Check out my recent videos I dropped. I dropped another one last night. I've dropped one on every guy we've signed so far. The only moves I have not covered, we did re-sign Elijah Hicks and guard Jordan McFadden. I don't know if I need to make a video on that, but none but love for you guys, man. I'll be back soon. Please hit that like button for me. Stay tuned. And until next time, you know what to do. Bear down.